as some kind of an attempted carjacking, but we're still waiting for the details. This happened in the Northeast, at Holm Ave and Willett Street, Northeast Philadelphia. We're still trying to get all the details and the story, but the off-duty officer, bottom line here, is shot a suspect, reportedly a carjacking suspect. So 2 cars involved, 2 shots fired, and we know at the scene the off-duty officer's unmarked vehicle could be seen with a shattered driver's side window. So I just want to put that out to you that the officer did not suffer life-threatening injuries. So that's the report, but it's an incredible story of what's happening in our city. So we have that going on. Also, if you haven't heard, I'm assuming that you're coming from us at Kale and Company, but I always have to give the headline that this historic United States port strike, this affects us here in Philadelphia, nearly 50,000 union strong across the East Coast and the Gulf as well. They suspended their strike after 3 days. It's a tentative agreement which is reached on wages, and that's according to the International Longshoremen's Association and the U.S. Maritime Alliance. They are back to work this morning here in South Philadelphia at the dock, and as well at the docks, and as well across the country. I'll just ask the question on this one as I move forward. Just want to give this real quick. Governor Ron DeSantis, as he came out about lunchtime yesterday, I have to just pose the question, just moving forward over the next couple of hours. Was this a piece of it? Was his leadership that was definitive in him saying, look, we have storm-ravaged areas, and we desperately need supplies. He right away had a plan. He told you about the plan that's already in place, that was in place in the morning, yesterday morning, that he was issuing the National Guard to go out, working with state police. They were going to have zero interruption of any supplies not being loaded because he declared it an emergency. Did that emergency declaration take away from the strength of the union prioritizing, and I'm not minimizing their priority to say, hey, we deserve equal pay of what our counterparts on the West Coast, but did it put things in perspective as we're learning about the death toll rising? That's one of my questions, because DeSantis, by and large, getting kudos and getting high praise for that leadership. That happened about lunchtime, and then we heard...
may end up being rerouted. So Florida's open. We want to use our resources to be able to get all this stuff to the market so that people are able to use what they do. We have 16 different deep water seaports. We will work with you to get critical commodities to shore and promptly plugged into the supply chain. At my direction, the Florida National Guard and Florida State Guard will be deployed to critical ports affected to maintain order and, if possible, resume operations,
so there it
which
is.
Would otherwise be
that
shut
happened
down.
At lunchtime, okay? And then after sundown, we heard that there was a tentative deal pushing it off until at least January 15th. No word on if they've come to any kind of a deal as far as grandfathering people in with the issue of automation, but at least they have suspended it. Did that put things in perspective for the union to say, you know what, not for nothing, we've done the 3 days, we made our point. So I'll put that out to you. And that really brings us to what do I think is the big story of the day, of the week, and probably of the year. The heartbreaking story, this is heart-wrenching, as you hear, especially in North Carolina, but these 6 southern states, and I'm including Florida in that, Hurricane Helene now as it's distinguishing itself as one of the deadliest storms to hit the United States of America this century. The death toll surpassing 215, and that is rescue crews still searching for survivors. But as I'm speaking, the hope is fading. And so I'll get into the financial aspect of it, but just think about what these individuals, as our president, Joe Biden, as he last weekend, okay, this thing hit, and we knew it was going to hit all week, right? We knew the path of it as it was striking Florida, the northern part of Florida especially worse, but we knew this was striking last Thursday. So over the weekend then, last weekend, President Joe Biden, Vice President Harris, where were they? Well, Biden was here in our area in Delaware. They were not in this storm-ravaged area, right? And so you think about this. falling trees right now. What are they facing right now? And by the way, if you look at the forecast for especially the western part of North Carolina, Asheville and west, those western points, there's rain in the forecast today as well as tomorrow. So couple that with the fact that when Biden finally did visit yesterday, and we reported that, and Dan, thank you for that yesterday, they had to suspend all of their operations as far as the private chopper people who were making rescues on a bright sunny day with very little wind from noon to 4. They had to suspend those rescues because that's when Biden, the team, chose to come in. And any president or, especially a president comes in, the air traffic, that's just protocol for anybody. So they had to suspend that. Right now, what are they dealing with? Falling trees, raging floods. And this is the aftermath. Still about a little under 1 million people still without power, and the death toll rises by the second, and people's hope is fading. And so people dying across these 6 states, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and yes, it's worst in western North Carolina. So Trump was there before our president could get there, and certainly before the Veep, and now Trump, heading back again today, I believe, to Georgia and North Carolina. But among them, just so many stories that we hear. A mom with her 7-year-old son and her parents. And I heard this on a Christian station as they were interviewing mom who was saying how she was praying and grieving for the loss of her son and her parents. A 7-year-old named Harmony and her 4-year-old brother Derek. That these siblings, the tale of how they died, and the family's oak tree crashed into their bedroom. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Last night, I will say, for Jesse Waters did this interview with this man who is, and people are telling their stories. This was so emotional. This is Jordan Lanning, and he's talking about. I want to go to cut D2C. As he responds to what's going on and his personal heartbreak.
How have you felt the response has been so far?
It's too late. I mean, they took too long. It took them 5 days to get here. And I mean, it took 5 days for Biden to come here, and he didn't think we were worth coming down to see himself. He had to fly over on his way to Raleigh. It's disgraceful. I mean, they keep saying we the people. No, there is no we the people. It's them versus us. They're not for us. It's all about them. They tell us what we need instead of listening to us.
And so when you think about the death toll rising by the minute, when you think about the storm aftermath, and at the same time, we're hearing from the Biden-Harris administration that the confirmation that, yes, we are, as a nation, FEMA is financially depleted due to, in part, the fact that FEMA, why is it depleted? Because they spent some $1.4 billion on dealing with the crisis of illegal migrants across our country.
I want to sneak in a Big Al from Mullica Hill here, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Big Al, you're talking right exactly what Don's saying there. What you have to say, sir?
Well, I'm pretty upset with this whole situation now, with spending all that money on the illegals and leaving American citizens suffering like they are right now. If this doesn't get Donald Trump over the top, there's nothing in this world that will. And it's just, with all these people hurting, these are Americans. People that have been paying taxes, working for, patriots of America, and you got this stuff by this so-called sleepy president and Harris and all this, everything they're doing, it just disgusts me so much. And I wish I could say the words that I want to say, but, I can't do that. I know that. But, man, if people don't wake up in this country, this is where we're heading, and this country is through if Harris wins the election.
Thank you. And I know you're upset. So many are upset across the nation watching this. And to hear the administration officials admit that FEMA is depleted and the money they've spent on folks coming from other parts of the country. And then if we complain about it, You know, if we complain about it in the past, we're called all kinds of names, or, oh, this America First agenda, how wrong that is. Well, now you see why.
FEMA is tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well.
No, thank you. It's infuriating. It truly is. And he should be fired, by the way. And we've talked about the fact that earlier this morning that these farmers, just private people coming together with any kind of farm equipment, anything. And by the way, farmers coming from as far as Wisconsin. See, this brings, you talk about the different states.
I do have the rest of that Mayorkas
Okay,
too.
go ahead.
We are meeting the immediate needs.
Really?
With the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds.
Does not have the funds
to make it through the season.
Unbelievable that he had to acknowledge that. This is on Biden. This is on Harris. This is this administration. If you think you're angry, you know, listen to, again, well, here's Jordan, who was on last night being interviewed by Jesse Waters.
When you hear the government saying they ran out of money, they're going to need more money, and that they gave it away to all of these migrants that came here. They came here against the law. How does that make you feel as an American citizen?
Extremely angry. They're putting other people before their own. I mean, I feel betrayed. I feel like we're not worth it to them.
I was in tears last night as I was listening to the debate and with my kids. And so I was seeing these clips coming down, and it's just to imagine you have friends and family, and you look around and you realize, with the way that the weather is, the heat, the humidity, and that this is now days that your loved ones have been missing. There are horrifying reports even from some people who say that they can smell the bodies. They can, the smell in the air. It's just, oh my goodness, it's horrible. And I know there are so many private efforts and so many private teams and nonprofits and church groups, which is beautiful, coming together. But it is a sin, and it is a sham and a shame. And this administration has failed us once again. 855-839-1210. Have to break. We have one of the best policy people and policy experts, I believe, in the nation, who's going to break down a lot of this, and we'll go through the McCormick-Casey debate as well. I know Congress is expected to come forth to give more of our money, of course, to FEMA now that they've blown the wad on others that they've brought in. But we'll talk to Andre Beliveau coming up right around the corner. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. The NFL season flying by, but you still have time to start the season with a big return on FanDuel in partnership with Valley Forge Casino, America's #1 sportsbook. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. You can build a same-game parlay for the Eagles game against Tampa coming up. Anytime touchdown, go with Goddard. Over rushing yards, Saquon Barkley. Over passing yards, don't do that. Under with Jalen Hurts. Just visit FanDuel.com/Dom, D-O-M, to make every moment more this season. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official partner of 1210 WPHT. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You have to be 21 plus, present in Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a paid commercial message.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message. So many of you have told me about your plans for the future. Starting a business, buying a home, retiring near your grandchildren. But prices are too high. So let me tell you what I will do about it as president. I will take on price gouging. I will lower the cost of healthcare insurance. We cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. I'm running to do that for everyone. And I will provide new down payment assistance to first-time home buyers and tax benefits to people who want to start their own business. Donald Trump, well, he wants to give more tax breaks to the wealthy, whereas I will cut taxes for the middle class instead. Because I know working people want to do more than just get by. You want to get ahead, and that's the future you deserve. And that is what I will focus on every day as your president. Paid for by Harris for President.
If you're driving a car or truck with an expired warranty and suddenly lost your transmission or needed a full engine repair, would a $4,000 repair bill leave you stranded? I'm Danica Patrick. Don't get caught off guard with a vehicle breakdown. Choose the company I trust, Endurance. No matter the mileage, if your vehicle is less than 20 years old, Endurance offers auto protection plans for any budget. Protection on the drivetrain, electrical, transmission, AC, and more. Plus 24/7 roadside assistance and rental car reimbursement on any plan. Endurance handles everything, from making the claim to paying the certified mechanic of your choice. Act now and get 1 full year of elite benefits. A $2,000 value, free.
Endurance has paid hundreds of millions in claims. Call for your fast free quote today. Call 800-291-3183. That's 800-291-3183. 800-291-3183.
Window Nation presents the 1210 WPHT Veteran Spotlight in partnership with the Travis Manion Foundation. Listen the first Wednesday of every month as Kale and Company shines a spotlight on a local veteran, highlighting their remarkable commitment to the community and their exceptional service in the military. Presented by Window Nation. At Window Nation, there's nothing more important than giving back to the communities we serve. For all of your window and door needs, visit windownation.com. That's windownation.com.
Dr. Marty Makari. First of all, I got to tell you off the record, my kids have lice. Any advice?
There is a good protocol for lice, but it's a lot more common than people think.
So I'm not going to die or anything, right?
You're going to live.
He's a world-renowned surgeon at Johns Hopkins, and you're wasting his time talking about lice.
That seems like the most apt thing to ask a professor of medicine.
Exactly. I loved his answer. He's like, yeah, it's really common.
Like, shut up. Why are you asking me this? My time is valuable.
Rich Cioli, weekday afternoons, 3 to 7. Talk Radio 1210, WPHT, and on the free Odyssey app.
Hey, Clementon. Yeah! We know your favorite station is Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
WPHT. So when you hear somebody say policy, you think, I'm going to hit that. Boy, that's a snooze. That's a sleeper. But we realize when you look at our nation, look at the economy, look at the energy policy, look at jobs, look at the border or lack thereof, look at the Middle East on fire. That's what I said yesterday. Middle East on fire. We have our southern states underwater, and all of us certainly burdened by and we hope to be unburdened soon, maybe November 5th, by the policies of the current administration as far as fiscal policies. So policy matters. And that really brings me to a guest Andre Beliveau, who's been here many times. I think one of the best policy experts when you think about especially energy and where we're going here in Pennsylvania and then zooming out to the entire nation. And then you think about in Pennsylvania, the House of Representatives, we've talked about House Bill 2277. We've talked about Josh Shapiro, regulations, jobs leaving. So welcome in, Andre Beliveau. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, good morning, Don. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure for sure. So first of all, I don't know if you were able to see, because I do want to weave in, if I can, the debate last night between Dave McCormick, who I will point out has never in his life has never been a politician, and he was somebody who grew up here in Pennsylvania, somebody who served as a combat veteran, served in Iraq on the front lines, if you will, and then went on to working in the private sector and at a very high level, certainly in the financial world. And then we have Bob Casey Jr., who is well known, obviously, because of his famous beloved father, but somebody who has been a career politician by all accounts here in Pennsylvania and has a big name and lives off the family name and the legacy. But I want to weave in last night's debate, if I can, as well, speaking about energy and some of the policies and how that looks and how they differ. So let's start, if we can, Andre, talking about where we left off. I think one of the last times we spoke, and that was Governor Josh Shapiro the reliable energy sustainability standards, talking about House Bill 2277. I know you wanted to talk about this. Where are we as far as regulations, as far as policies here in Pennsylvania, and what it means for all of us?
Sure. Well, so there was supposed to be a committee vote at the state capitol on Tuesday on the program you just mentioned, the PRESS, which is Governor Shapiro and the Democrats' proposal to essentially cut grid reliability in half and increase electric bills for ratepayers across Pennsylvania, all in the name of answering to their renewable energy lobbyists and green energy donors by changing our alternative energy portfolio standard by increasing the amount of intermittency we have in the grid, which that means you're going to be paying more for less reliable energy. This obviously doesn't make sense, and for whatever reason, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to pull the bill from committee. So we can all we can sleep better tonight knowing that at least we live to fight another day. So that bill was actually pulled from committee, which is great. But I think when we're looking at kind of the totality of the landscape, you mentioned the debate last night. Obviously, we just had the vice presidential debate the other night with J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. I think that all this is interesting, and I think, especially if we go back to Tuesday night, and then we see some subsequent interviews that have happened after that. I mean, Kamala Harris is, I think, actually asking us to be unburdened by what has been. She allegedly says that she's changed her tune on fracking. We've now heard it from her mouth several times. She says she will not ban fracking. So I'm going to take her at her word because she's saying it. But she also said something in an interview this week that I think is saying the quiet part out loud. She, in the same vein, she said, "I'm not going to ban fracking." She then followed that up and says, "We don't have to ban fracking to do all the work that we need to do to have a clean energy economy." And that right there to me is that's the quiet part out loud. That's the canary in the coal mines. That is her signal that take her record for what it is. And what has the record been? The record's been an LNG pause. It's been an EPA that wants to absolutely get rid of reliable hydrocarbon power plants. It's been the Inflation Reduction Act poisoning our energy markets, changing price signals, increasing costs for ratepayers. You've seen your electric bills go up. So she was right. She doesn't have to ban fracking. It could be death by 1,000 cuts to American energy. Get rid of good jobs, raise energy costs for everybody, and make our grid less reliable. And I think overall that's the policy trend we're seeing from the left. They're trying to moderate, which I'm glad she's not going to ban fracking. But if you're still going to do 1,000 other things that are going to be detrimental to the energy environment, and again, I think we should just take them at their word, what they're saying, and look at their records. And to me, the record is pretty clear.
If I can, because McCormick and Casey at last night's debate, there will be another debate mid-October locally in Philadelphia this time at 6 ABC. But on this one, McCormick Casey being asked about fracking specifically, and I'll begin with McCormick as he answers how he plans to balance the economy and mentions the fracking and the energy policies.
How do you plan to balance supporting the industries while also protecting the environment? You have 60 seconds.
Listen, what the Democrats have done and Bob Casey's voted for has been the most idiotic energy policy I've ever seen. So first of all, we constrained our natural resources, particularly fracking around the world in Pennsylvania. You don't have to ban fracking to ban fracking. All the things he's voted for and supports bans fracking. And essentially what's happened is we've lost our ability to be energy dominant. We've hurt ourselves in terms of creating these great jobs. It's not just not losing jobs. We have the 4th largest natural gas reserves in the world. We're blessed. And this natural gas is the way to a clean environment. Because of fracking, we've reduced carbon emissions in the United States by about 20%. Exporting our natural gas around the world and replacing coal-fired plants in India is the path to reducing carbon. I'm an environmentalist. I'm a conservationist. I also want great jobs for Pennsylvania, and I want to be secure. Bob Casey, and Bob Casey has made us more dependent on China because these huge subsidies for EVs and solar panels we have to buy from China. So 70% of the lithium batteries and the solar panels come from China. I can't think of a more stupid set of policies.
Okay.
And I'm anxious to hear
Time is up, sir.
Senator
Mr. Casey,
them.
same question.
So we'll let Casey tell his side, but just your analysis, Andre Belvo, if you would, as far as, do you agree with McCormick, or there's some parts that you're critical of what he said?
Well, I mean, I think when we're talking strictly about policy and a policy direction, which I would 100% encourage all your listeners to go to the CommonwealthFoundation.org, read our energy policy platform, and compare what we're saying is good policy to what you're hearing out there, and let the data and the facts speak for themselves. I will say, I mean, there's certainly some things there in a policy direction that we advocate for, policies we advocate for in the Commonwealth Foundation. I mean, absolutely. I mean, with the policy landscape we're seeing in Pennsylvania, we are not right now unlocking our full economic potential, particularly when it comes to the natural gas industry, but even broader in the energy industry. We've seen some good things happen, like we saw at 3 Mile Island, a private partnership that's free market. Free market's working, and the industry working with private industry. That's great. But we're the second largest producer of natural gas in the country. We have literally the keystone in Pennsylvania to Americans' energy demand. We can meet that demand with natural gas, but we are in-state permitting is a serious issue. Things like an LNG ban at the federal level obviously does not allow us to expand into global markets. So yeah, I mean, there's so much government red tape that needs to get out of the way for Pennsylvania's energy economy to thrive and really deliver for American energy independence. If we're serious about American energy security and independence, then absolutely. I mean, we have to be getting rid of these regulations, and there's of course a way to do this responsibly. They create this false dichotomy. You either have to care about the environment or you have to care about reliable energy, and these things work hand in hand. Our own independent fiscal office in Pennsylvania has shown how we've reduced carbon emissions by transitioning to more robust usage of natural gas, which the left and the environmentalist left would like to absolutely ignore. So, we have the potential to not only provide reliable energy, but to do so clean. We're the cleanest economy in the world here in the United States, and Pennsylvania has the answer to keep us going in that trajectory. So I think hearing policies that reflect that are certainly policy directions that I would support personally, and I believe that we advocate for at the Commonwealth Foundation.
And so I'll just, to be fair, I'll play the other side because we stopped before we could get to Senator Casey's reaction, because fracking, I think, is emerging as this pivotal issue in Pennsylvania in this Senate race. It's one of the biggest issues. So here's his response to that.
Supporting the natural gas industry and protecting the environment. You have 60 seconds.
Dennis, my record's pretty clear on this. Number one is I supported legislation just 2 years ago that made the greatest investment in clean energy in American history, allowing us to combat climate change, and at the same time have supported an all-the-above energy strategy for Pennsylvania. We have natural gas. I've always supported it in the extraction of natural gas. He's been the same guy who lies about where he lives has been lying about my position on fracking. I voted against a fracking ban. He won't tell you that because he doesn't want to talk about his own record as a hedge fund CEO.
And so your reaction to that, if you would, Andre.
Yeah, so I mean, he used one of my least favorite phrases, which is all of the above energy, or all the above energy policies. And again, you can go to the CommonwealthFoundation.org. I wrote an article for this in National Review. And it's not just Democrats. Republicans do this all the time. Even some of my favorite policy analysts say this all the time. And some of our friends kind of in the sort of wonky energy industry, they try to use this to moderate and say we need all of the above, which is it's really a blank check to the Green New Deal, and is really a blank check to some of these policies that are just going to make energy more expensive and less reliable. So what I would prefer lawmakers and those running for office who are putting out policy platforms, and we need lawmakers and politicians to be advocating for reliable and affordable energy. We've advocated in state in Pennsylvania for lawmakers in Harrisburg to adopt reliability language in statute, something that's source neutral, that allows all sources to compete on equal terms of reliability, instead of, right now we have the government picking winners and losers. And of course, progressives always want to favor, wind and solar. But, we think we should just be prioritizing reliable and affordable instead of just blank checks to all of the above. And anyway, so those are the policies that we would advocate for, and that we would hope anyone, left, right, and center would adopt these kinds of policies that are going to lead us towards a reliable and affordable energy future.
When and I feel embarrassed for those moderators on Tuesday who made their second question in the VP debate. about climate change when we have people, dying in our southern states. But
well, and actually, Don, if I let me comment on that real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in the North Carolina legislature. I worked in North Carolina politics. I have North Carolina. I was born in upstate New York, but I'm a North Carolinian at heart. I spent so much time down there working in policy, and that question really just that became personal to me. I think it's absolutely acceptable and right for us to have honest questions about climate and about environmental conservation, but to try to link what we're seeing in our southern states and in Western North Carolina in particular, where it hit home for me, that you're going to just deflect about talking about the real life crisis right now, people who are actually suffering, and the economic question around that, and the things that we need for resiliency. And instead of talking about that, you want to make it about a more esoteric conversation of a broader question of climate change. That was personally offensive to me, and I think people, once again, it just shows how irresponsible the left wants to talk about these issues. There are ways to responsibly talk about environmental conservation and climate, and linking those two things together the way they did, it must be irresponsible.
Yeah, it struck me that way as well. With Pennsylvania, I know that as far as climate change, all these different debates, they always ask about climate change, but even the Commonwealth polls that I've seen, is climate change in the top 10? Where does that rate as far as when the Commonwealth, I know you put out questionnaires and polling and surveys, where do you find that something like an issue of climate change, and believe me, I think we're all for clean air and clean water. I'm not trying to diminish it, but in the scheme of what we're dealing with right now, what did the Commonwealth Foundation with your surveys show people care about most, and where do they rate climate change?
Sure, and we're actually going to have an updated poll coming out in the next week and a half, so definitely keep your eyes on that. Maybe we can chat when we get some of those updated numbers out and released. But in the last two that we did this year, it doesn't even come close to the economy. Obviously, people are much more concerned about the economy and inflation. And in energy policy in particular, I mean, our polling showed that Pennsylvanians were not willing to pay $1 more to combat climate change in the face of the rising electric costs. That was their number one concern. They were far more concerned. And I mean, it was an overwhelming supermajority of Pennsylvanians bipartisanly cared a lot more about the rising costs of energy. They were more concerned about the reliability of our energy grid. They fully support the expansion of our natural resources and our natural gas infrastructure. Those things are legions ahead of people where they're thinking about climate change. And when you ask them about that, they want to be responsible and good citizens and show good civic leadership. They'll do things and take personal interventions in their everyday lives to be good stewards of the environment and to help. But they just don't want the government, putting their thumb on the scale and forcing them through all kinds of just draconian regulations to do all these kinds of things. They're just going to increase costs. So, I mean, Pennsylvanians understand, I think, they understand, and our polling shows that they obviously, like everybody else, responsible people care about clean air and clean water, but it's certainly not a priority for them when they're thinking overall about what policies matter the most.
Andre Beliveau, thank you so much, Senior Manager of Energy Policy there at the Commonwealth Foundation. Until next time, my friend, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Don.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we'll talk more about it, and I do, please make sure, Dan Borowski, that I get to, we got to get to Liz Cheney, because this is so rich. Cheney is campaigning with Vice President Kamala Harris in Wisconsin. And what she said, right, was so ironic. Where do you hear? You can't even make this stuff up in this upside down land that we live in, right? Do we have to take a break?
Yes, we do.
We do. Okay, sorry. So 855-839-1210. I do want to get to your calls, so we'll take a quick break. Be right back.
When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have someone else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement but don't have a plan customized to your goals, that's kind of like taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in your suitcase. Seems like a stressful way to start what should be a relaxing time. Jim Cipriotti and the Retire Ready Financial Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to help reduce future taxes, along with a clearly defined income strategy. Call Jim at 610-894-7415 for your complimentary retirement game plan, or visit retirereadyfg.com. That's 610-894-7415.
Investment advisory services offered through Retire Ready Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through James V. Cipriotti, Retire Ready Financial Group, LLC, NPN number 2083768.
Hey, did you hear? Wawa has classic hoagies for just $6.
Any classic hoagie?
Yeah, any classic hoagie.
What about the cheesesteak?
$6.
Meatball?
$6.
What about the Italian hoagie?
It's $6 for a classic. I shouldn't even have to ask, but what do you want for lunch?
Hoagies at Wawa, of course.
Right now, get any Wawa Classic Hoagie for $6. Gotta have a Wawa.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney, and the truth is I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney or if I look like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare without me being an attorney. And I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call, and you will not talk to an attorney. And I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090.
It's not just about watching the game, it's about betting on it. I'm Mike Valeni, and on Cash the Ticket, Jim Costa and I break down every college football and NFL matchup like it's the last game we're ever going to watch. From the best bets to the sneaky underdogs, and of course, as my co-host likes to say, the value. And the one thing we're not going to do is pretend we're professionals. We have fun with it, it's an entertainment product, and it makes watching games a hell of a lot of fun. So Cash the Ticket, follow it in the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow Talk Radio 1210 on Instagram and Facebook at 1210 WPHT.
So just to wrap up, as we'll get to Liz Cheney because I want you to hear this, but just to wrap up as far as last night's debate, maybe we'll sprinkle in some highlights and lowlights between the two. I said earlier on Kale & Co., I was kind of laughing at the answer after a while that McCormick would just very quickly, when Bob Casey would make a claim, then McCormick would go, CaseyLies.com, CaseyLies.com. And it was just, it became like almost like an audio drop, like some shows.
For viewers tonight, I have a website that's been established today. It's been launched, CaseyLies.com.
CaseyLies.com.
That's great.
We should just start dropping that in all the show. CaseyLies.com. So, there's Bob Casey. And he speaks a little. And then CaseyLies.com. It became humor. For some reason, it cracked me up.
Should we credit Kevin Poles?
I know.
Is McCormick listening? And GregStuckerSucks.com?
Yeah. Then he should have done. That would have been funny. CaseySucks.com.
I do have the Liz Cheney clip ready for you now. Sorry about that.
Let me just wrap this up before we get to Liz Cheney, because I want you to hear this. This is really rich and ironic. But as far as the fracking situation go, when you think of fracking, big business, big jobs here in Pennsylvania, we produce more than 7 trillion cubic feet of natural gas every single year. When you talk about America and being energy independent, Trump talks a lot about that. And I know that McCormick has talked about it as well as others. So with Casey seeking his 4th term, has he ever actually said, I want to ban fracking? Has he said those words? I can't find a spot where he actually said those words. What his voting record shows and what we can find with him talking about is that he has voted for policies, and this would be along with the Biden-Harris team. He has voted for policies and talked a lot about the restrictions. And so And so basically, if you are greatly restricting, and this is something I learned from Governor Burgum when I met him in person at one of those Trump Force 47 events. I think that one was Delco or Chesco. I get him. But that was something that an energy expert like Governor Burgum put so well as he talked about it. If you greatly restrict something and you make it so difficult to do the business or make it so inefficient for the private sector to invest in, then you've essentially banned it. That was what Governor Burgum said at the point. So I'll just point that out to you as far as I fact check. I'm always going to be fair. And you, of course, should always, when it comes to your vote, do your own research, because I just feel like the media is not really given the fair shake to one side. So let's listen now. This is something none of us thought we'd ever see in our lifetime, right?
Zan, hello.
That you have the most liberal, and it's not just me saying this, I think by all accounts, the most liberal senator when she served in the United States Senate, and that is one now Vice President Kamala Harris. She is left of most of her colleagues, certainly left of Biden. Being endorsed by candidates, by former lawmakers who have been considered the most conservative. And in fact, when you think of Dick Cheney, remember when the Democrats for decades, they called him Darth Vader. They called him evil. He and his daughter, Liz Cheney, saying that these people are far, far right. And so it does make you wonder, how could the furthest Darth Vader and his daughter now endorsing somebody who is considered the far left? Why is that? Because these are the Darth Vader swamp creatures. They've all gone to the dark of the swamp, the depths of the swamp. Darth Vader's daughter in Wisconsin with lefty, our Vice President Kamala Harris. Listen to this.
I know that our security and our freedom depend upon a world in which America, with our allies, leads. And above all else, I know that the most conservative of conservative values is fidelity to our Constitution. I tell you, I have never voted for a Democrat, but this year I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. What January 6th shows us is that there is not an ounce of compassion in Donald Trump. He is petty, he is vindictive, and he is cruel. And Donald Trump is not fit to lead this good and great nation.
So that was, she talks about being vindictive. And so I just ask you, who is the real vindictive one? Donald J. Trump, who's been shot? He was shot, okay? This guy doesn't have to do this. He's not a career politician. He's not getting Halliburton money like the Cheneys. Look how rich they are. How did they get so rich? After being investigated, etc. And she has a Darth Vader daddy's trust fund that she gets some of that money too. Talk about vindictive. And guess what? Her state, they thought she was not fit for office. They felt she betrayed her conservative values, and they fired her because they felt that she prioritized any kind of her values and her priorities. She was showing her true colors as a swamp creature. That's what the Cheneys are, swamp creatures who are in it for themselves. And what a shame and what a disappointment. Shame. We'll do the Game of Thrones shame with the Darth Vader music. Wow, that was rich. And Kamala was thrilled. And here are Democrats who used to rip into this family. Yes, shame.
Shame.
But I'll say shame with the bell.
Shame.
We'll do that much, but we
Shame.
don't want to see Liz Cheney walking naked through any streets like the Game of Thrones punishment. That was my catty remark. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I
just realized what you meant by it. It took me a second there, too. Yeah, that's probably,
Are we ready for a road trip? Hey, are you taking the road trip? I'm going to get to your calls right around the corner, 855-839-1210. I see you. I want to hear from you. But are you ready for a road trip? So we've got our Phillies here. Woo, Red October. And hopefully it's a Red October for our Phillies and Red October and November for one Donald J. Trump and for all of us as our nation looks to what's going on. So let's think about this. I do want to ask you, are you traveling to Butler, Pennsylvania? It's about 5.5 hours for me to drive. It's a hike.
Yeah.
So I'm still planning on going. I have the event we talked about. So tomorrow morning at 10, we'll have fun with the kickoff, much like Dom Giordano did this week, as we're trying to just make sure everybody's registered and really promoting the vote. As far as getting out there, make sure you're registered. Make sure you get out and vote. And that's with our great friend Linda Stearns. I'll be doing that 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Talk more about that. But are you going to Butler, Pennsylvania? Elon Musk, the word came out. Elon's going to be there. They should do like a meet and greet or something. Wouldn't that be cool? So I'm very excited for that. But speaking of road trips, and what a beautiful weekend. Whatever you're doing, 79 degrees, bright sunny skies for your tomorrow. So as we go place to place, make sure your vehicle's ready to go place to place. My friends at Piazza Premium Automobiles, yes, Piazza Premium Automobiles, they're going to make sure that you and your family are safe out on the roads. These service centers of the Piazza Premium dealers, they not only handle all your regular maintenance needs, but they're also going to diagnose those possible issues before you hit the road and before they happen. Schedule the service appointment online today, PiazzaPremiumAutomobiles.com, Piazza, PiazzaPremiumAutomobiles.com for that dealer nearest you. Tell them Dawn sent you.
We don't care who you vote for in the upcoming election. You know why? Because this is not a political ad. Jim Cipriotti and the Retire Ready Financial Group meet with people every day wondering if they should be doing something different with their money because it's an election year. At Retire Ready Financial Group, we want you to know where your money is, how it's performing, and if the market does go down, how does it affect your retirement? We call it a portfolio snapshot, and we do it at no charge. Our goal is for you to have confidence as you enter retirement, confidence to spend, and confidence that you won't run out of money. Let's vote those election worries right out of your retirement. For your complimentary portfolio snapshot, call 610-894-7415. That's 610-894-7415, or go to retirereadyfg.com. Investment advisory services offered through Retire Ready Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through James V. Cipriotti, Retire Ready Financial Group, LLC, NPN number 2083768.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney, and the truth is I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney or if I look like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare without me being an attorney. And I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call, and you will not talk to an attorney. And I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090.
The leaves are changing color, the air is crisp, and it's the perfect time to fall into savings on a luxurious new Volvo from Cherry Hill Volvo. Take advantage of these incredible offers. A 2025 XC40 for only $435 per month on a 36-month lease. A 2024 C40 for only $329 per month on a 36-month lease. Or get 3.99% financing on select new Volvos for 72 months. See store for details. Customers enjoy the stress-free and satisfactory experience Cherry Hill Volvo provides. Cherry Hill Volvo, where relationships matter.
From your kitchen table to our airwaves, the Dawn Stensland Show on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT and the free Odyssey app.
So the developing story of the day as far as Trump, I know he's in Georgia, and this whole tragedy striking the South is definitely, I think, uniting the Republican Party for sure, as you think about Trump visiting today and reuniting with a governor that he's, they did butt heads a little bit. So this is the first time in person that he'll be meeting with Georgia's governor, and that's happening today. So we'll watch that. If they hold some kind of a news conference and it happens, within the next hour or so, although we have Trump campaign folks coming on right at 11, but we'll try to bring that live to you. But just updating this, that in a historic sense, you think about 215 deaths confirmed, the death toll rising, third deadliest storm of the 21st century after Hurricane Katrina back in 2005, and then Hurricane Maria back in 2017. So it's believed that as the death toll rises, this certainly is going to make the top three, which is heart-wrenching. So let's return to that topic as far as what's happening there. A lot of private, different individuals, and that is from people who have donkeys. They have, 3 donkeys and a person hiking up mountains with supplies, bringing things like insulin, water, medical supplies. You have private operators coming from across the country and donating. This is a grassroots citizens effort, as many people are continuing to pile on the situation and say that FEMA is not doing enough, Biden-Harris not doing enough, and more importantly, quick enough, right? That was, the seconds matter when you have people who perhaps are trapped, and that's what we're seeing. So, and as I say, there's about a 25% chance of showers in the forecast, especially in western North Carolina. That's the hardest hit area, and so it's a shame that you have fog and rain, and that definitely, it just inhibits these rescue efforts, especially by private folks. Dan, where do you want to begin here?
So let's go back to Jordan Lanning that was on Jesse Waters last night. He kind of gives a first-hand perspective as to what it was like to be in that storm. And then I want to take this call from Kathy in Bucks County. Take a listen.
Take it one day at a time, just trying to survive.
What have you seen? What have you witnessed? How's life down there?
I mean, I went to bed the night before the storm. I went around when it was starting and nothing was flooding. So I went to bed thinking everything was fine, woke up the next day and there was over 20 trees down around my complex. And flooding was disastrous. We weren't allowed to, I couldn't get out of the house for about 2 days, and it just got worse and worse as further you went out.
And so as you hear this, let's listen in from Kathy in Bucks County. Good morning, Kathy.
Hi, Dawn. Thank you for taking my call. First, I wanted to say that I just think it's disgusting and very disturbing how our government has handled this whole situation. My heart breaks for these people that are out there. There's no reason why we shouldn't have money to take care of our own people when we've given money to people that don't even belong here. I got a great idea. Why doesn't Kamala give some of her money from her campaign donations and put that money into helping out the people out there? And instead of being on her campaign and doing all her rallies, why isn't she out there with her hard hat on helping these people, along with Joe Biden sitting in his comfy little beach chair out there helping out the people? This is the most disgusting thing. And like I said, there's just so many topics that you can touch on that one's just as bad as the next. And I'm ashamed of this government.
Get the
ashamed
hell
of them.
off the beach.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
It is shameful,
Absolutely.
Kathy. You're right. And so it's the incompetence of this administration. I'm just looking at some of the images, and that's the other piece of it, the coverage as far as national media. Can you only imagine? And I'll take you back, Kathy. Do you remember this when we talk about the worst storms and Katrina, and how at the time George W. Bush, President Bush at the time, was being ripped by the media?
I remember that.
Remember?
I remember that. I do remember that. And I remember, but he was there. But he did come.
On day 2.
And he was there. And what's so disgusting is the fact that if this was Trump so was vice president or president, and he was doing what they were doing, they would be hanging him by his ears. It would be that bad. You know, I mean, it's just double standards all the way around. And and we have so many issues in this country as it is, but to see our poor people that are being killed by this storm and that are being left literally out to hang out to dry, and they're not giving them food, shelter. I mean, we've donated to Samaritan's Purse. We're trying to do our part of it, but I mean, everybody, every American that's got a dime in their pocket, donate it. You know how much it would add up to? Help these people out, for God's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, and so all you see, and thank you, Kathy, I really appreciate you, and it's so true. There's just story after story. There's a story that has come out this morning about these twin babies, and they died alongside their mommy. They're named among the dead as this death toll is just rising this morning. It's just, it breaks your heart. And, you know, all of these hundreds of people missing. I mean, we talked about the hero pilot yesterday who was able to fly out the newborn baby that was having health problems, as well as an elderly person who needed the oxygen. But you're hearing about some of the images of people who are, because you can't really maneuver, so they're inside, let's say, a structure for shelter, but the water, you know, there's streaming water, so they're in water, maybe up to their waist. This is not healthy as you think about the heat, you know what I mean, and the sewage that gets into that water. My goodness.
I would even make the argument and talk about this, Dawn, that FEMA might be impeding the efforts by private citizens. Tim Kennedy, UFC person, fighter, is on the ground there, was on Fox News and had this to say. Take a listen.
I mean, because this happened on Friday. It's now Wednesday. Are they still not there anywhere? What are you seeing from FEMA in the federal response, if any?
I mean, they're present. They're in the way. They are directly interrupting our ability to conduct missions and operations. And I'm not going to disparage anybody, because we are trying to work within partner relationships, both government and non-government entities within state and federal and county. You know, I went to put a couple of people into a hotel last night, and they have a security guard at the hotel, and they said, "Oh, we're so sorry. The entire hotel has been booked for federal employees." And I was like, no, I have people that would just pull out of a mountain that are living out in the hills, and there's not a place for me to put them because we have federal employees that are staying in the hotel. I slept in this white car last night. I smell like foot and death right now, as does every single person on our team. Not a single one of us slept. We got done maybe at 3 o'clock the moment the sun was up and we could fly helicopters again. We were back in the air, and we have not stopped. And I was like on the fence about trying to get on this program or not. I want people to understand how incredible this organization is, Save Our Allies, and all the work that all of these volunteers are doing. But people, this is biblical level devastation. This is apocalyptic, the things that we see out there.
And that's just it. I think it's disingenuous for and inappropriate for the media. And I see headlines as I'm speaking about climate change could have prevented this. Well, you know, first of all, perhaps all of those conversations can be had later. But first of all, it's just gross to me to have that question, and that is a headline. But also, when you look back, they're looking back to 1916 and talking about storms back then. So to make it the top of mind issue that the media is trying to push, it's like I say, it's obnoxious for sure. Kathy, thanks for your call. We'll get to the other calls moving forward. 855-839-1210. Great guest. Trump campaign right ahead.
California Psychics is the real deal. They helped me out, totally changed my attitude, totally got me psyched to start my business and take a new path in my life.
At California Psychics, customers like Jeremy trust us to connect them with only the best. In fact, we reject 98% of the psychics who apply to us. So we guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free.
I feel like she really kind of made a connection with me. She knew something about my personality, knew a little bit about me. Now I'm really confident about getting out there and just getting it done.
Right now, new customers receive 20 minutes for just $20. That's a real deal you don't want to miss. So join Jeremy and experience the joy of certainty at www.californiapsychics.com. Get insights on the go. Download the California Psychics app today.
Talk Radio 1210, WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3, Philadelphia. Always live on the free Odyssey app. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Live and local from Philadelphia. The Dawn Stensland Show on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
I started out this morning at 6 a.m. on the news reporting confirmed deaths in the southern states hit hard by this devastating, catastrophic storm, one of the worst in 60 years. And now we know that 5 more people are confirmed dead. So that death toll, 220 plus. And as you have private rescue crews across the region, citizens, farmers, and people coming from across the country with any kind of equipment to try to help by plane, by vehicle, walking, even by mules, as they try to make these life-saving rescues and say, where is this administration? As you heard earlier, at least one of those survivors saying, this administration doesn't care about us. As far as this is on the campaign trail, as far as former President Donald J. Trump, where is he? I know he has an event in North Carolina this evening benefiting and speaking directly to veterans, but we know that he's also meeting with Georgia's governor there, Kemp, and that'll be happening today before coming here to Pennsylvania, to Butler tomorrow. Let's, do we have Elizabeth? Yes, Elizabeth Pipko, GOP national spokesperson. Good morning, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. How are you?
I'm doing great. We are all excited for tomorrow to have a great day. The weather's going to be beautiful. We're in the high 70s, a lot of sunshine, and let's say hopefully a lot of safety and increased security. Are you concerned about security tomorrow because in essence, we're all returning to the scene of the crime, if you will, the attempted assassination and the shooting of former President Trump, as well as the shooting and killing of our former fire chief, Corey Comparator?
I have to be honest, I'm not thinking about security. I think it's kind of the mentality we try to keep here, just like President Trump always does. It's about moving forward and making sure that Donald Trump is able to say what he needs to say to the American people, that we're able to properly mourn the life of Corey Comparator, like you said, that Donald Trump can raise his fist in the air and come back and make sure the American people feel safe about the country that they live in. I have full confidence in Secret Service, knowing what they've done since then, knowing how much effort they're putting in to keep President Trump safe, as well as, of course, all of us wanting his supporters to be safe and anyone that attends any political event in the United States, right? Because this should never, ever have happened. And we should make sure, of course, regardless of what side politically you lean on or anything else, that this is never happens again in the United States of America. But I think tomorrow is about strength. It's about a proper goodbye and an honoring of the life of Corey Comparator. And it's about putting the American people first and showing them that we cannot be afraid. We have to fight evil only with strength, right? Not with hiding.
Yes. I do want to get to the storm aftermath and these numbers. It's a tragic situation. And what, as far as President Trump being down there before the current administration, by the way. But I want to talk about something because we just had our schools off and our communities, our synagogues protected with either local police or private security during Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. You, Elizabeth Pipko, also a co-founder of what's known as the Jexodus movement to try to, enlighten, let's say, American Jews from the traditionally from voting Democrat and thinking about what's happening in light of Israel and the policy of this administration with regard to Israel, and then as well the anti-Jewish protests that we've seen on college campuses across the nation, including right here in Philadelphia, where I'm broadcasting from.
Yeah, look, it's a lot to unpack. I hope everyone remembers, obviously, October 7th on Monday is the one-year anniversary of that horrific day. For those who don't know, it was the worst day when it comes to the loss of Jewish life that we've had since the Holocaust. 1,200 people were slaughtered that day, including Americans, right, which we should never forget. We obviously have to support Israel as our ally in their fight against terrorism, But people should also remember that Americans were targeted that day as well. Americans are still targeted as they are still being held by these terrorists in Gaza for almost a year, right? Monday will be a year. So I hope people understand that what's happened in this country with the rise of anti-Semitism is something I never thought I'd experience in my lifetime, knowing that after October 7th, when I had to watch that footage and cry with, fellow Jews around the world, that I would wake up and see right outside my window people my age and younger marching with Hamas flags, burning the Israeli and American flags. I just never thought I would see that in my lifetime, let alone after a day like that. So I think it is a sign that we are upside down, truly, as a society. We've regressed, right? I love when the Democrats say Donald Trump is taking us backwards. The only thing I've seen right now that's backwards is everything that's happened under this administration, everything that the left has tried to instill in young people, everything that people are kind of obsessing over right now. It is the absolute opposite of everything that we love, stand for, and value in this country. I don't think anything shows that more so than the reaction to October 7th, because any other time when you saw our ally have an attack like that, when you saw terrorists get away with something like that, when you saw your own Americans held hostage by terrorists for a year, the United States would have acted differently. Our people, our leadership, everyone would have acted differently. The world is upside down, and so is our country right now, and it is so tragic to have to witness.
And so today, Donald Trump visiting North Carolina. So what can we expect to see as far as the former president in North Carolina and in this, storm-ravaged area? Because this is obviously is it his second or third visit? I lose track, but he's back today, and I think this is the first face-to-face meeting that he'll have. Is that correct with Kemp? Is that right?
I believe, yes. People have talked quite a bit about their relationship, and I think people should remember in times of tragedy like we're in right now, none of that matters. Donald Trump is always ready to meet with whoever he has to meet with, to go wherever he has to go to make sure he's there for the American people. Like you said, he's heading to North Carolina today. He's taking off in a little bit. Actually, like you said, he was already there. We actually also launched our Women for Trump tour on Wednesday this week. I was in Atlanta, Georgia with Lara Trump, Sage Steele, Tulsi Gabbard, Lynn Patton, and Danica Patrick, who joined us. We donated thousands of food items, non-perishable items, blankets, hygiene items, things that people needed after the storm. We're going to continue to do that. That's what Donald Trump inspires in all of us. He will also do the same. So just stay tuned. He has a town hall, I believe, at 7 p.m. tonight, but he will be doing quite a bit before that as well.
I saw that Ivanka Trump, there was a headline in the Charlotte papers that Ivanka Trump flew to Hickory, North Carolina, and she was helping to donate Starlink devices to people. So that's the first time I've seen Ivanka maybe in a large role like this. Is she part of this Women for Trump? Is that part of it?
It is not. That was her own initiative. That was her own. We obviously welcome her anytime. We're excited to see her soon, I'm sure. But people should realize that everyone on Team Trump, whether they're family or friends or staff or supporters, we all just want to help. And there's a way that people like to portray those that work for Donald Trump or support Donald Trump in the media. And I hope people realize, especially now, that could not be further from the truth.
So speaking of Women for Trump, Melania Trump, Mrs. Trump, the former First Lady, making some big headlines, Elizabeth, with that audio drop and then all of the conversation about her stance in apparently, supporting My Body, My Choice type initiatives. Just your reaction from your perspective on did you know that was coming?
So I did not know that was coming. That was put out completely by her own team, which is separate from our campaign, obviously, operation that we have. I will say I hope anyone that listening decides to actually buy the book and read it for her own statements, right? Because every media headline you read is not always our reality or the truth. And I hope people want to hear from her and not from the media choosing to twist her words or report them however they choose. But I will say this is a free country, right? Donald Trump always said this should go back to the states because people in America do not share the same views on an issue that is so powerful in both negative and positive ways, depending on how people are looking at it. This is an incredibly important issue. It's one that tears families apart. Donald Trump talks very often about how he wants to bring people together on this issue because it has divided our country in so many negative ways over the last few years. So I know people that disagree. I have no problem with anyone that disagrees, and I think it only shows even more so why Donald Trump choosing to put in the effort to make sure this went back to the states is really the American way for every single issue that might divide us in this country but should not.
So I remember that Trump had said that former President Trump had said at one of his rallies, "Oh, I haven't read my book. Hopefully she says nice things about me." And so is that something that, because there are now, all of these theories are coming out with some of the daytime shows. Oh, there's a rift. But now Trump says, I'm not going to tell
she hates him.
Yeah, there it is. And so all these different theories. My theory on this is, in my humble opinion, and I said it earlier this morning because I'm on since 6 o'clock this morning, that I think it muddies the waters, if you will, to change a media narrative. And that is hard to do, to change a media narrative. But it changes the narrative that, A, Trump tells his wife what to think and what to do, number one. But number two, it changes the narrative from the aspect of, these people don't have diversity of thought within this issue. Is that something for you, Elizabeth Pipko, that you would agree with? Are you guys talking about this or what?
Look, I would certainly agree with the fact that if we saw something like this from the left, it would be celebrated as diversity of thought in a relationship, right? That I 1,000% agree with, and I hope everyone remembers that, because that was a very good point. Look, I think people should understand she's her own person. I don't believe any of the nonsense people make up about their relationship. Yeah. It is nobody's business, and she was on Fox News multiple times in the last week talking about everything that her husband has been through, that the campaign has been through, talking about how she supports him and how much she knows he wants to make this country great again. So clearly those that are saying whatever they want to say have not watched that and are doing a lot of limited research to try to push their own narratives. The fact is she is her own person. She was a wonderful first lady. I know that she wants President Trump to be back in the office of the presidency. She wants him to be back leading this country. I'm sure she wants to be first lady again. And I hope more than anything people can be inspired that there is diversity of thought in relationships, in political parties, in families, and what brings us back together is that we're all Americans that want the best for each other no matter what. And I do believe that what you said is true. If it was on the other side, it would actually be celebrated.
Elizabeth Pipko, thank you so much. We look forward to the next conversation. Thanks for all you do. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. So listen, we can talk more about that topic. Dan is working hard to get some more interviews and updates. There's so much breaking, so much developing. We got it all here for you. Don't go away. Be right back.
Crash Proof Retirement records all financial meetings. All promises made in recorded financial meetings become legally binding between Crash Proof Retirement and the investing client. Crash Proof Retirement provides all of their clients with a certificate of authenticity, further documenting that recording financial meetings brings fiduciary responsibility to the highest level.
Jack Gunning from Bluebell, Pennsylvania. I don't know whether anybody can offer you the security that Crash Proof Retirement does. I have a certificate that tells me they're a fiduciary. Everything is recorded and they have your best interest at heart. That certificate is 100% documentation that you know what they're saying is 100% correct. Other companies don't have this guarantee. This certificate means an awful lot for me, and it should mean an awful lot for you.
Certify your retirement future. Schedule an appointment or register for our next event at Spring Mill Country Club on October 16th, 800-722-9728 or crashproofretirement.com. Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney or if I look like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare without me being an attorney. And I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call, and you will not talk to an attorney. And I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090.
The following is a paid commercial message.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message. So many of you have told me about your plans for the future. Starting a business, buying a home, retiring near your grandchildren. But prices are too high. So let me tell you what I will do about it as president. I will take on price gouging. I will lower the cost of healthcare insurance. We cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. I'm running to do that for everyone. And I will provide new down payment assistance to first-time home buyers and tax benefits to people who want to start their own business. Donald Trump, well, he wants to give more tax breaks to the wealthy, whereas I will cut taxes for the middle class instead. Because I know working people want to do more than just get by. You want to get ahead, and that's the future you deserve. And that is what I will focus on every day as your president. Paid for by Harris for President.
Honey, I'm going to Wawa for dinner.
Okay, but Ben wants pizza.
Yep.
And Nick wants a burger and fries.
Right.
Oh, and the twins, they won't touch anything except for mac and cheese.
Exactly. Wawa has something for everyone for dinner, so I only have to make one stop to make everyone happy. So, what do you want?
Well, if you're going to Wawa, I have to have a hoagie.
From burgers to hoagies and everything in between, Wawa has dinner for everyone.
When was the last time you watched your home movies?
Disasters strike unexpectedly. Every year, American families lose the one thing they'd run back into a burning building for, their family's memories. Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Adam. We started Legacy Box to help save your family's most important recorded moments so you don't have to worry.
Load Legacy Box with your old movies, film reels, and shoeboxes of photos.
We work our digitizing magic, converting those memories right to the cloud so they're safe and accessible forever.
It's fast, we always send your originals back, and it's done right here in the USA.
Over 1 million families have trusted Legacy Box. Better Homes and Garden, Real Simple, and Inc. magazine are all talking about Legacy Box.
New York Times columnist David Pogue says, have them digitized. I wish I'd done it sooner. Take action. Save your family's memories today with Legacy Box.
Go to legacybox.com/value to get an incredible 50% off your Legacy Box. That's legacybox.com/value for 50% off while supplies last. legacybox.com/value.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. Are you tired of relying on caffeine for a quick energy fix? There's a better way to revitalize your body from within. Introducing Oracine by Rescue Natural Supplements, the cellular energizer that helps your body produce its own natural fuel. Say goodbye to daily fatigue and hello to lasting energy. As a bonus, Oracine supports heart health, optimal blood pressure too. That's why you can't miss out on this exclusive radio offer. Buy one bottle of Oracine, get another absolutely free. Simply use the code FUEL when you place that order. Call today at 800-26-LIVE, 800-262-5483. Speak to a knowledgeable product consultant or use the code online when you visit res-q.com, res-q.com. Be sure to use that code FUEL, F-U-E-L, for this buy one, get one free offer on Rescue Oracine. Remember, use the code FUEL at res-q.com today.
Hey, Mount Laurel, we know your favorite station is WPHT. Tell your smart speaker to play 1210 WPHT.
Updating you on today's top stories. And of course, excitement building as tomorrow, if you're lucky enough to have tickets, lucky you, Philly's hosting the Mets for the start of the NLDS. We're in it to win it, right? So exciting. We got our Phillies merchandise, sweatshirt, got the rally towel. It's so exciting. Pre-game parties, a lot of food. It's going to be a great weekend here in Philadelphia. And then, of course, in Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania. Look forward to former President Trump, Elon Musk. I know Dave McCormick will be there as well, and so many dignitaries as they are celebrating and commemorating, the death, but as well as celebrating the life of former Fire Chief Corey Comparator in Butler, Pennsylvania tomorrow. That's 5 o'clock at night. There are also questions about what happened as a Philadelphia police officer, off-duty officer, was involved, and they're calling it involved in an off-duty, there was an officer-involved shooting. That's not the headline I would have. I always look at this, being from a TV news background and some of the TV stations, an officer-involved shooting. Well, it appears that you have a Philadelphia police officer who's off duty in plain clothes in his non-marked vehicle, and a carjacker, tried to, threaten him with a gun or shoot him or whatever and carjack him. And so he defended himself. I mean, that's what the inside story is, allegedly, that happened here, but that'll never be in the headlines. I'm glad the officer is okay. Non-life-threatening injuries. As far as the other guy, the alleged suspect, was shot and is now in very critical condition. So if you were wondering in the Northeast, Holm Avenue, Willits Road in Northeast Philadelphia, if you were wondering what was going on because they did have road closures around that intersection, that's what was going on. So just to give you the heads up. But the other story that hit last night, as I say, the dock workers going back to work and are back to work early this morning after the dock workers, the port strike has ended amid a suspension of the strike. So it's a tentative deal. And I asked you earlier, do you believe that maybe the fact that we were getting the response from different governors, but especially under the leadership of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and we played it earlier, we don't have to play it again, where he said at his direction, National Guard working with state police, there will be zero interruption as far as unloading and delivering these needed supplies that are life-saving supplies, with Florida especially being one of those hard-hit states, northern Florida. And so we'll go through it. But the strikers celebrating this tentative agreement, they're talking about, and in the headlines again, 62% pay raise. That is over a 6-year period, okay? And so they still, when you think about $39 an hour they're making right now in these jobs, $55 is the average of their West Coast counterparts. And so at what point, so maybe by a year or so, they'll be up to the level of their West Coast counterparts. The West Coast guys and gals are still making more money. That's the bottom line that as I look at this, it's a tentative deal. And then the real question, what about the automation, the so-called, automation, robots, whatever you want to call it, replacing those jobs? How do they deal with that? So it's good for all of us as far as keeping the economy growing. By the way, we have a jobs report that's coming out. I have to note that to myself and to Dan. So let's go through it. What have you got? Are we going to be affected by this, Dan Borowski? It was a 3-day strike. We're hearing from the current administration that, we're really not going to feel the effects of it. Or will we?
Yeah, so U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Halstrom appeared with Maria Bartiromo and discussed the impact that it would have had on meat, and noting that even the short, brief nature of what happened would indeed have an effect. Take a listen.
So yes, the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports are essential to our business, without a doubt. About 45% of the waterborne exports on pork go through these ports, and about a third of our pork is exported, so vital in regards to the pork industry. And on beef, about 30% of the waterborne exports go through these ports, servicing all over the world, but specifically markets like Central America, the Caribbean, South America, Chile, Colombia, the Middle East, also to Europe, and even over to Asia. So I can't understate the importance of, or overstate the importance of these ports for our supply chain in general.
So when do you expect people are going to start feeling this, that they're going to start understanding that they cannot get beef or pork at the store any longer because it's stuck on a ship and it's no longer good, it's perishable?
Yes, I think the congestion, the impact is already happening. We just maybe haven't seen it yet, but we're seeing it within our supply chain. I mean, the exporters that are exporting the product are already working on rerouting product to the West Coast, for example. I think that's only a short-term solution because we're already hearing reports of delays into the West Coast. So the supply chain is very efficient, but when you take out roughly half of our capacity to export containerized ship, the impact is real, and the impact is now.
So the impact is now. So with meat and some perishables, I think it's fair to say there will be some ripple effect and perhaps higher costs. I also know they were trying to fly things in so things wouldn't spoil. And so then we all pay for that. And this could have been averted. It could have been avoided. I'm not going to put down the union or the union boss because they're looking at all this Ukraine money. They're looking at all the money we're giving everybody else, and they're thinking, you know what? We want to get ours. This is affecting us the next 6 years. So I'm not going to put them down because I think they wanted to, have this on the books and the deal done in June. I think part of this is, again, a failure by this administration to keep your eye on the ball.
To your point on Mornings with Maria, same show, reporter Jeff Flock was on the ground in the Newark, New Jersey protest.
This is awesome.
It's hard to hear because it's a person recording off their TV, but Maria essentially tells them to turn around and ask the dock workers whether or not they like Kamala Harris, ask them to raise their hands. It's more of a visual, but take a listen. We'll tell you the result.
It's interesting that Kamala Harris has taken a side. I wonder if they support Kamala Harris.
I could ask that question. Maria Bartiromo back in the studio. She said,
okay, just pause it for 1 second, if you would, Dan. I did tweet this out, and I tweeted out the actual air. I'll try to find it. But here's the thing. The initial piece of this is that, here it is. I did this a day ago. So the initial piece of this is that this reporter is out there, and the reporter says to them, do you support your union chief? Do you support Harold? Do you support Harry? And, oh, yeah, he's the best. And they're supporting their union president, okay? And so so that's the reporter's question, and the reporter now is gonna wrap it up, and is basically saying, Maria, back to you. And so you've just heard them very vocally support their union president. This is a vocal group, and you hear among them a mom, and she says, look, I'm a single mom. I got 3 kids. And if you look at her, okay, so what is her take-home pay? Because she lives in the North Jersey area. And she probably makes, I don't know, 75, 80 grand a year with these high costs. And so the take home, you do the math. And so she's saying, look, all I do is work. And I'm not a mom who has a lot of time to cook with the kids, and she's very real and very vocal. So a very vocal group, if you will. And that's why what's significant here is then the reporter's like, and Maria, that's the latest cheer and Maria Bartiromo, who, she's a smart cookie. She used to be, remember they used to call her the money honey back in the day, and then I guess,
did they?
Yeah, that was her.
That's a good name.
And as the young hottie or whatever, and then I guess somebody thought maybe that was inappropriate. She probably loved it. If somebody called her the money honey, she'd probably laugh because I don't think she's triggered or woke or obviously. But Maria, in her wisdom, tells the reporter out there, hey.
I have the full cut now if you want to play the entire
thank you. This is so good.
Maria Fletches, who has been a crane operator here 25 years, a longshoreman. And I say longshoreman, longshorewoman. I'm not sure if that's correct. Your father was a longshoreman.
He's trying to be all political.
Is that correct? Wait, I got to pause it. Is it a longshorewoman? Because it's the longshoremen's union.
Here's the thing. I don't think she cares.
That's a good point.
She's like, yo, Jeff, I've got bigger quijones than you. And you know what I mean? She's a strong, tough lady,
Shoreman, and I say longshoreman, longshorewoman. I'm not sure if that's correct. Your father was a longshoreman. Do you support your president?
100%. 100%. He's
Tell me
fighting
why.
for us. He's fighting for us. He's fighting for our rights. He's fighting to stop automation. We do not want automation.
Talking about the
We've
union
worked
president.
our whole lives here. We want our children to work here. It's a great job. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are the heartbeat of America. We're lacking just the way you guys at home are lacking. We don't have cups. We don't have paper. We don't have this. We don't have the other. But we're here. We're fighting for what you need.
They say some people say you make too much money.
No, negative. We're out here in the rain, the sun, the snow, the heat. We're missing a lot of events out of everybody's lives that are close to us.
You have 3 kids.
3 children, yes.
Raising as a single mom.
Correct. Yes. It's hard for them to know that mom's not going to be home cooking dinner. Mom's asleep a lot when we go home. We don't have time for social events. We're just here working.
These workers also point out, Maria, we checked out Mr. Daggett's salary. It's under $1 million, $728,000, I think, at last count. These workers point out that the CEOs of the shipping companies with whom they are now negotiating multiple millions of dollars in salary. So I would just ask the broad question, support your president? You support your president?
Yes.
When I say you say power.
Listen how loud they are. This is important.
Power!
Union! Power! Union!
Okay.
The hope was
Vocal
to
group.
affect the resolve of the folks out here, at least among those folks who we're talking to here at the Port of Newark. Not working yet.
I mean, it's interesting
Maria,
that
back to you.
it's interesting that Kamala Harris has taken a side.
Here we go.
I wonder if they support Kamala Harris.
Now listen.
I could ask that question. Maria Bartiromo back in the studio. She said, we got a presidential election going on now. I hate to bring this up, but you support your union guy. Vice President Harris supports the
Looking
strike,
down.
she said. She wanted to know how many folks support Vice
Putting the
President
microphones in their
Harris.
faces.
Any hands? No hands.
Listen to Maria.
Wow. Okay.
Listen.
It's nobody's business.
It's
just one
nobody's
man.
business.
So there you go. I tried Maria, and
Interesting.
fine.
Yeah.
There you go.
No one raised their hands.
Nobody.
That's
And they're
very interesting. It's very revealing. And I wonder if that's why Kamala Harris all of a sudden claims that she's on the side of the picket. This is all political. Jeff, thank you.
Yeah. So Maria nailed it. I've always been a fan of her. Smart cookie. She nailed it. This nobody's business. Well, we know what their business is. You heard how vocal they were for their union president, and crickets, thank you, Dan, for Biden-Harris. There you have it. We know who they're voting for. 855-839-1210. Great guest just ahead. You got to hear this. Be right back.
Weather sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
We'll expect a beautiful weekend of weather and good weather for baseball. Today, 77 degrees with some clouds and maybe a shower overnight. Tomorrow, turning sunny and pleasant with a high of 79. 76 for Sunday, mostly sunny and beautiful.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Last year, more clients hired Morgan & Morgan than ever before. We now have more offices, more staff, and more lawyers than any other injury firm in the world, protecting America, fighting for you.
Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Wow, honey, have you seen the electric bill?
Yeah, it's out of control. But have you heard of Navien tankless water heaters?
Tankless? How does that even work?
Well, instead of constantly heating and storing water, it only heats water when we need it. So much more efficient than our giant tank heater.
That sounds great. Let's look into Navien.
Already on it.
Imagine all the hot water you need only when you need it. Bulky tanks are history. Navien high-efficiency tankless is the future. Compact, wall-hung units free up floor space, lower energy bills, longer life than tanks, and a 15-year warranty. Find out more at tanklessmadesimple.com.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie, and one thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. Because with every fix, update, and renovation, it becomes a little more your own. So you need all your jobs done well. For nearly 30 years, Angie has helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. From plumbing to electrical, roof repair to deck upgrades. So leave it to the pros who will get your jobs done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
Free speech lives here with Don Stensland, 10 till noon on Odyssey's #1 talk station, 1210 WPHT.
What we've seen thus far, and again, really, this is all in the past 3 years, so a very short amount of time. 25 states have now passed some sort of Fairness in Women's Sports Act, so half the country, which is great news. It presents a wonderful opportunity for the state of Pennsylvania. What we know historically, looking at other issues, cultural or not, really, Pennsylvania has been the state that is able to set the precedent for the rest of the nation, given its political climate. Right, it's a purple state. Passing a bill like this, as you said, as we know, based off of the events of 2021, it's never a guarantee. It should be, because it really boils down to common sense and basic biology.
That is Riley Gaines. I was at this great event with her in Montgomery County. My honor to meet her. I still have to tweet out those pictures. But somebody who is going across the country and here in Pennsylvania and working with my next guest. And this is Representative Barbara Gleim, who is somebody who's fighting for girls and women in sports. This is a huge issue. And you may ask yourself, how come this is not getting huge play here in our area or in Pennsylvania? How come? And so, Representative Barb Gleim, thank you so much for joining me. As I saw that you, and everybody should follow you on X, on social media, as you say, as you posted some great pictures with Riley Gaines, meeting with her this week, and you want to help protect women and girls in sports. and hashtag Fair Play PA, Protect Women's Sports. So you are part of some important legislation. First of all, I should say hi. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely. Well, no, it's our honor. Thanks for coming on and talking about this. I mean, I know that Riley Gaines was, with you at the Capitol and really trying to inspire local communities to not be intimidated. I mean, that's part of it. And locally here this week, there were people I know that didn't go to the big packed meeting to meet Riley Gaines because they don't want to be out there on social media. They're basically getting bullied or afraid of being bullied. But this is a huge issue with school boards now having to deal with the Biden-Harris administration's Title IX issues. And this is in the upcoming weeks that we have some critical votes and meetings. And so just take me through your piece of this, if you would, the legislation, what people can do, and why you feel so strongly about this.
Well, we started this issue about 3 years ago, basically after the UPenn swimming issue, where Riley was and all of this really started. There were a group of us who were past athletes and women and thought that this was so unfair. So we introduced House Bill 972, which actually in a bipartisan manner passed the House and the Senate. And it was our Democrat Governor Wolf who decided he knew better than the people, who vetoed it. He had a strong lobby from, the LGBTQ community against our bill, and he basically just vetoed it. We reintroduced it. It's House Bill 216 because we're not giving up. This governor that we have now, also a Democrat governor, has said, I'm going to veto it if it gets to my desk. So the majority party in the House has not even lifted it out of the House Education Committee. But I'm just going to say we're not giving up. It is really an issue of fairness. It's also discriminatory towards women and all of the advances that they've made under Title IX. There are 2.6 million women participating in sports all across the United States right now, and very many in our own state. And as this issue continues, which polls, by the way, 70% agree that there should not be men in women's sports in Pennsylvania. So it harms women. I mean, physically, you can even see what was going on in the Olympics. And boxing was ridiculous and unfair. And we can get into all of the reasons why that is, because it also is a doping issue that is unfair at the Olympic level and at the NCAA level, where these men that are playing in women's sports have higher testosterone levels than the women. They are just physically more capable. They are definitely taking opportunities away from women. So I was honored to meet with Riley, and we talked a lot about how we're going to continue our fight in Pennsylvania and making sure that women have their own category to play and in our sports here.
When we the last meeting that we just had a few days ago in Montgomery County, to watch the faces of people reacting as they're asking questions to, Riley Gaines, one of the most decorated swimmers, right, in our nation's history, when you look at SEC history and all of that. I mean, so you think of her high level of performance as a swimmer, and the fact that, she talked about how she was bullied by the UPenn officials or coaches, whoever that was, they were threatening them essentially with saying, you'll never get a job. This is going to be a dark stain on your career moving forward. And do you really want this? They're going to view you as a hater, a bully. And so somebody at that level, as a high performing athlete who has always been the winner on the podium, if you will, and a very confident individual. And I think people couldn't help, especially some of the moms and grandparents later said, if they could bully somebody like that and intimidate her, and then she's telling her dad, Dad, don't get involved. at the same time that she was in a locker room with trying to put on a swimsuit in a locker room with a biological male with all of his apparatus on full display, and Paula Scanlon the same thing, and others. If they feel intimidated, then translate that into what, let's say, a grade school age or high school age girl is going to feel in a local school right here in our area. And that's really what these communities and all of us are up against, isn't it, Barb?
It is. They attempted to silence her. They violated her free speech. They violated her right to privacy. I mean, there were so many violations there, and she did not back down. She just decided, nope, this isn't going to happen, and she needed to stand up for the voices of all of those young girls, exactly like what you're saying. And, she's trying to get parents on board to, protect these young girls. But what she also talked about was I don't know if you've gotten the news that San Jose State has a man playing on their women's volleyball team.
Yes.
And now there are 4 states. Utah State was the 4th school, and they just declined playing San Jose. They were like, nope, we're not going to participate in this. And kudos to those girls and women for standing up to this, awful situation for them, because they know that man playing was the best man on their team. And we've already had one incident where we had a girl get hurt, who had literally brain damage from a spike from a male in a previous, game.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just turning a blind eye to all of that. And it's discriminatory to me. I finally got to the point where, this is discrimination against women. And we're going to have to fight for it, and we will. And we're not going to back down that women should have their own space. I do want to say one more thing, because I don't know how much time I have, but I have been going around and talking to some school boards, just like you mentioned.
Okay.
And I want your viewers or your listeners to understand one thing, because the solicitors of those school boards and some of the superintendents are saying that, we could lose our federal funding if we don't adhere to this Title IX, edict that has come down from the Biden administration. But I just want them to know that in 54 years of Title IX, not one school ever in the whole United States has lost federal funding because of Title IX.
And so what are you saying? They should call their bluff?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they should stand up and say, yeah, we're not going to have that here in our school. Now, we've already won that one lawsuit. I know that Moms for Liberty chapters, were really involved with that. There are, a lot of other legislation and other lawsuits that are pending because of that. And so we have to wait for that anyway. So I'm saying, number one, wait. Don't, jump the gun here, because you don't know how it's going to play out in the courts. And number two, don't worry about losing your federal funding, because that's never happened.
And so as far as what's going on with Title IX, and I did mention the issue with what's going on with a transgender individual on an undefeated team. I mentioned that yesterday. I'll update that in a moment. But as far as what people can do right now, how do they sign on? Because there is a way that if they sign on to some of these lawsuits in local school districts, then from what I understand, that school specifically would be exempt. Is that correct?
Yes, if they sign on with or start a Moms for Liberty chapter, or they sign on with their Moms for Liberty chapter that's already in place, yes, their school would be exempt from having to do that. That there's a lot of things that people can do. They can really start writing letters to the NCAA and putting pressure on them as well. Mm-hmm. So the NCAA has a decision to make. Really, what are they going to do? Are they going to prioritize, women and their right to be able to have their own category, or are they going to prioritize that men are going to be able to play in women's sports? So they could get involved that way. They can get involved with their Moms for Liberty chapter. They can get involved in their school board and just write letters or speak up and say, this is not what we want for our girls and women in our competitive environment at this school. They can sign on or, contact Americans Defending Freedom. There are a lot of different, entities that are fighting this fight.
How do you react to people saying, well, this is just mean or it's phobic against people who are perhaps, at a different in their lives, they're transgender? And so how do you respond? I mean, and I've said repeatedly, just so you know, I am always, everybody knows me, I am kind, I am thoughtful, I want to empower everybody. But at the same point, I don't want one group of people, girls and women, to have to lay down and be stepped on to bring forth or promote the rights of another. How do you answer to that when people say, well, this is just mean and this is really just something that's being phobic?
Yeah, well, I always say the solution isn't to destroy fairness for women in general.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the solution. And also I say it's not equality to pit the physique of a male at birth against a female at birth, and I would just say that it is it's very unfair to women who have fought their entire lives and have competed their entire lives, and at the very last minute, they're competing against a male. So it's not, the solution isn't to destroy that fairness. The solution isn't to make it unsafe for women to play in their sport.
Right.
The solution isn't to violate free speech and their privacy in bathrooms and locker rooms. So I would say, and it has been said many times, that maybe there's a separate category, or that those individuals who want to compete in sports compete in a sport that does not violate Title IX for women.
Yes. Is there a pathway? I mean, the NCAA is being sued by, among others, Riley Gaines. She joined in that. But the two young ladies that you referred to, Brooke Slusser, who is the athlete on the volleyball team with the transgender individual co-captain, Brooke Slusser. And so the allegation by Brooke Slusser, who's a biological female, is that she has said not only, is this a safety risk, playing with somebody who's so much bigger and stronger than the other girls, but as a college kid, she was forced to live with a biological male and was never warned or asked that she has, because they're rooming in dorms and this and that. And so she's part of that suit. Is it, as a lawmaker, if you have a governor who's a Democrat who's going to veto anything, then, as the old saying goes, the lawyers always win? Do you try to smooth the path for lawsuits for these girls to file these lawsuits against schools or et cetera?
Well, sure, they already can now, and that's why it's happening, because it is so unfair. And, you could always put pressure on your governor to come up with a solution, and rather than just a veto, and that is equal for all.
Yes.
And I would say that, we have stories, so many stories now, like Paula Scanlon's story.
Yes.
I did a podcast, and we called it In the Broom Closet. Because if you listen to her talk, she actually was so embarrassed about what was happening. They would take turns going into a broom closet to change.
It's horrible. Yeah,
These
I did a great
are athletes.
Yeah.
These are women athletes, that are being made to feel so uncomfortable
It's wrong.
in their own environment, and that's why it polls at 70%.
Yes.
Right? I mean, people agree with this issue.
We do. Barbara Gleim, thank you so much. And member of the House of Representatives here in Pennsylvania, District 199. I know that's a huge district there, and huge support by Barbara for our girls and women. Thank you so much. I hope we can continue the conversation.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll take a quick break, right? And we'll be right back.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney or if I look like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare without me being an attorney. And I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call, and you will not talk to an attorney. And I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. Call 800-290-7100. That's 800-290-7100. 800-290-7100.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Bob Casey supported radical sanctuary city policies, and Casey said,
I want to be held accountable if something doesn't work out well.
Casey's sanctuary city policies haven't worked out well. They release dangerous illegal immigrants onto our streets. In fact, Casey's sanctuary city policies released one illegal immigrant felon in Philadelphia who then raped a 5-year-old Pennsylvania girl. Casey made us all less safe. Casey not only supports these crazy policies that put convicted felons back on our streets, he'd make things even worse. Casey voted to give illegals with violent criminal records amnesty. Casey supported amnesty even for illegals convicted of domestic violence and child abuse. Rewarding illegals convicted of domestic violence and child abuse? It's insane.
I want to be held accountable.
It's time to hold Casey accountable. It's time for a change. It's time to fire Bob Casey. Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. SenateLeadershipFund.org.
Upgrade your bathroom with Emmons Remodeling.
We offer custom design, build, renovation services to fit your style and budget. Our designers work closely with you to create the perfect space for you and your family.
Experience luxury and functionality with the expert team at Emmons.
So call us at 856-885-6677. Again, that's 856-885-6677, or visit us at callemmons.com. From top to bottom,
to inside and out,
at Emmons, we have you covered.
This is Dr. Marianne Ritchie. Tune in to Your Radio Doctor every Saturday afternoon at 5 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT for the latest healthcare news and information, because your health is your wealth. That's Your Radio Doctor, Saturdays at 5.
At PGW, safety is essential to delivering clean, reliable natural gas to Philadelphia homes and businesses. If you smell gas, call PGW at 215-235-1212.
Calling on Blackwood to follow 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
So, former President Donald J. Trump in the storm-ravaged areas touring that. And a little bit of a reunion with Governor Kemp, so making up and putting other things aside. But this is their first face-to-face meeting in a couple of years. And the strike locally and across the East Coast, that is, for now, it's suspended and working out a tentative deal. Frank, my friend in South Philadelphia, I know that is good news to your ears to hear that they've at least suspended their strike.
Yes, I'm so happy. I work for the docks in 3 different docks for 15 years. And I'm glad they got their contract, or if they in negotiation with a hourly wage. And it's rough work, particularly around the holidays, wintertime. you're in with snow, rain, whatever. The only time they're not allowed to take any containers or unload or load ships is when the wind is about 30 or 35 miles an hour. They're not allowed to do work at that time. But it is rough work, and I'm glad that they settled the strike. And I was hoping that the port of down there, Florida, would send all that supply would go to only the states that
need it.
Hurricanes that just destroy these few states.
It's devastating, Frank.
You know, it's devastating, and I'm happy that the private sectors of throughout the country that are going there to help them people down here, and Biden and the three knuckleheads, I call them now, because one admitted that he's a knucklehead.
Frank, my friend, I got to run because the Dom show is almost time for Dom time. But thank you so much. God bless. And as we certainly say prayers for our friends in the South, and then I'll be doing an event tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning, much like you did recently, Dom, just talking about, voting and protect the vote. And with our friend Linda Kearns, so protectthevote.com, we'll be doing a virtual training session. So I'm honored to be a guest, much like you did, Dom.
Yeah, great stuff. 90% of them, I think, are our listeners. Dawn, we've been tracking this guy, trying to find him, and he turns up. He's our East Palestine guy. This is the guy we brought on that had a show on Twitter and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right in the belly of the beast. Well, he's in North Carolina now, and he's got a lot to report about Starlink and a bunch of other things. And Scott Presler, I think, comes on for a applause today, a brief because
victory lap.
He did get the maintenance thing taken down from the state website.
Wonderful. Great news. Dom show starts right now.
When you look at your kids or grandkids, you can't help but wonder. You wonder what their world will be like in 20 years. Then you think about yourself. What will your life be like when you step away from work and into retirement? There are a lot of things you can't control, but with the right planning, there are some things you can. At Spectrum Wealth Partners, our Portfolio X-Ray is designed to